are live, but I can't see you.
Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, voice of the relocation industry. I'm your host, Ben Cross over here, and we are at the Philadelphia Area Relocation Council. I'm so blessed and honored to be here with all my new friends here in Philly, some old friends too. Hey Jack, how you doing? This is a lot of fun. I gotta go back over here. Okay. Hey. We're trying new things, guys. That's what we do. And we're going to give you a sneak peek of what a corporate roundtable is like behind the scenes. Thank you so much to Philly for having me and doing this wild and crazy idea. And I'm going to get out of the way here, but I'm going to be live, kind of live commenting, live tweeting. If you want to get in the comments and let us know kind of your thoughts or any questions you might have. We have a little bit of background noise. It's fine. We're doing this live. And then, maybe we'll interject some of those questions as we go, but they have topics they're going to discuss and just kind of do their thing. So I'm going to get out of the way and maybe we'll just do some introductions and then get started. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds good, y'all. Go ahead, Jason.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Suto, Global Mobility Program Manager for M&T Bank.
I'm Stephanie Schrack. I'm Corporate Counsel for Communications Test Design Incorporated.
I'm Joan, Virata, Head of Global Mobility for CSL, and green looks good on Ben.
Jack Jampel with Stryker, and I'm the Global Mobility Manager.
Judy Bergstresser recently retired from Ivana Corporation as the Global Manager of Mobility.
And I'm Amy Parrent. I'm freelancing right now at the Publicis Group.
Hi, I'm Hunter Byrne, and I'm a compensation intern at Exalted.
Hi, Gosia, Piasecka, Manos, part of Total Rewards team at Exalted.
Kristin Manning, Manager of Global Mobility and Immigration at Urban Outfitters.
Nice.
Nice.
All right.
Nice, yeah. So thank you to everyone. It's free flow, as you know, but how's everyone feeling with the most recent federal court ruling vacating 100,000 grand on a fine Thursday morning?
Cautiously optimistic.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you pivoted, or is kind of like one of those where, you know what, let's just wait for another day or 2 days maybe, kind of?
Well, I mean, we have every reason to expect that the government is going to file an appeal, and we'll see where this goes. I mean, will it get to the Supreme Court? Maybe.
Have you done any comms with employees? How are you managing it?
No, we haven't done anything. So most of our employees do not even qualify for this. Or,
All right.
yeah, they're not impacted by this. But we also made sure that we were making decisions that would not lead us down this path of needing to pay. But the thing that is top of some people's minds, some companies' minds, is, hey, I've already paid this 100,000. How do I get my money back? There's no, that court ruling did not provide any sort of path for refunds or how to get the refunds.
So how many people paid? How many? Did anybody here pay that fee?
I don't know.
No.
I don't think any.
I think
I haven't heard any.
You just didn't put those
Correct.
folks into the lottery this year.
Well, we also had two foreign nationals who were on H-1B who relocated to Australia in 2025. We withdrew their H-1B petitions because their H-1Bs because they were no longer in the United States. We were planning to bring them back into H-1B status when they came back from Australia, but then that $100,000 fee was implemented.
Yeah.
So we actually brought them back in L status. And that they were both on their own H-1Bs. They're a married couple, so we were able to bring her back in on his on the L2. So thank God it worked out. But
Companies are stopping payment on checks. I'm kidding.
Who pays with checks anyway?
Well, you all said,
I had this question, my wrinkles were coming out, Jack.
We believe what you say. Yeah, we always anything you say, we're like, yeah.
Right, but so there's a few topics that we kind of just like prepared, and obviously anyone who has any questions, if you have any questions on the live, that's kind of like cool too. But in this day and age where, you know, cost has always been kind of like something that's being managed, right? But in recent years, we hear the sound of employee experience. And so how are people kind of like managing that, you know, the balance of cost and employee experience kind of? So whether you're going through policies or is it more of you're just communicating proactively? So we're kind of like caught in the middle in the new landscape that we are, not minding different scopes that we're already taking in as global mobility post-pandemic. But you know, with the buzzword of employee experience and cost, how are people kind of just like going through that? How are you managing it from a program perspective?
We rely, I think we put more pressure on our RMCs. You know, we're cutting costs and things, but we're still expecting that same level of, you know, experience that they're providing, the service that they're providing. So we never let down on that, but I think a lot of pressure is being put on our suppliers to maintain that at lower costs, you know.
Has it been working? Tips?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been working. Like I said, I don't think, we haven't heard anything from employees that they're not gonna take a job because of the relocation experience, you know, so.
Well, define what you mean by relocation experience. Is it less reading? Is it more high touch? Is it just-in-time information?
The way I look at it is more high touch.
So more human, less
Technology.
Yes.
less technology.
Yes, that's the way I see it, is that it still comes back to the human, you know.
Interactions.
AI has helped a lot with our processes, but employee experience, I still think a lot is the touch of it.
But I think you have to take into account too that you could be as proactive and have the best customer service front line, and things are going to continue to go wrong and go off the rails. So experience has to do with not only trying to mitigate those issues from happening, but reacting to them. And that's where I think your relationship management with your vendors really comes into play, because when you pick up the phone, you need to have someone on the other line who's willing to go, you know, into the fire for you because of that relationship. So, you know, I've been on the vendor side, so I've always been an advocate for not beating your vendors up when something does go wrong, because they're the ones who are going to have to, you know, deal with situations. So, yeah, so you need to maintain those relationships and have a true partnership with your vendor or supply chain.
So it's a holistic employee experience also elevates and bubbles up to, I totally agree, 100% agree. I'm still surprised at how many corporations treat RMCs as a vendor rather than as a partner. So saying that out loud here, maybe we can change that.
But first, stop calling them vendors, they're
Right.
partner suppliers.
They're partners.
That's what we don't call them vendors.
I think adding to Jason's though, it's the external relationships or partnerships, but it's also internal. So it's all about the communication. It's not only that relationship we have with, if we, you know, lucky enough to have that one-on-one interaction with assignee or relocating employee, but it's also all like the internal groups, the business, understanding and setting those expectations and knowing, you know, like what the experience, especially that each experience is highly individual. But like the relationship with procurement teams, with finance, with payroll, all other HR functions. It's a lot of, I think, touch points to make the move of one person or the family happen.
And that's like a swan kind of like swimming, right? Because an employee will see the swan gliding. Because that's common, I wouldn't say it's a common issue, but it's a common concern where too many touch points. And so part of that really, like what Jack said is, all right, we have our partner suppliers in there, but in the eye of somebody relocating, amongst all of these touch points, is that I can actually rely to one person. When things kind of like get too much, there's that one person I can go to. And I think just to add to the points on our partner suppliers, and I know we share our policies with them, we have handbooks with them and everything, but that communication, like what you said, Gosia, is really key, and just like set expectations early around, this is what it's written, this is how, that's kind of like gonna happen. But also from a corporate side, trusting them. There's a reason why you chose your partner
Yep,
suppliers.
absolutely.
So, you can't always be the one to, it's a, I didn't like how you did it kind of approach. It's micromanaging, so it's about making sure that we also trust our partner suppliers, because otherwise, why did you choose them, right? So
Yep.
there's a whole reason why you're partnering with them, and part of that is entrusting your policy and your actual program with them, so.
Really quick, Jason, will you pick up the mic?
Yep.
Joan, will you pick up the mic? Judy, will you pick up, or Amy, pick up that mic? And he goes, and let's just pass them, because people are just having this touch of a hard time here.
Okay.
But you guys sounded great otherwise.
Okay, so you share, we'll share
Yep,
here. then.
sure.
All right, so just, again, sorry, just picking up on the, on our partner suppliers and that pressure. How's our partnership with procurement, and how, are there anyone going through an RFP? I know we're on live session, but,
We finished. We started last September, and we're actually, our deadline is actually tomorrow before our current contract expires. So, but we're in the process of renewing with our same vendor. But we did go through an RFP.
and the reason I ask that is really to focus on our internal partnerships as well, because they are part of the team in a sense. So, like what Gosia said around finance and procurement, it's global mobility as end-to-end goes beyond, okay, we know somebody who's moving from country A to country B. There's so many things that's happening behind the scene, and part of that is, educating your partners internally as well to, when we say relocation, do you understand relocation, right? So, have you, I know Jennifer's unfortunately not here, but I know she actually does a lot of these communication sessions with, internally, and so if anyone's doing that, is that helpful?
I'm curious, Jason, so you kept your same provider, you kept the
Correct.
incumbent. So was that RFP procurement driven?
It was twofold. It was both we wanted to pressure test the experience that we were getting and make sure that, the service offering was in line with what we should expect. And it was an opportunity, because I believe we were in a 5-year relationship as well, to make sure that rates were market and that, if there was any cost savings to be had. So it was twofold. But to Joan's point, and showing my age, because my mind just went blank. Joan, this is what I wanted to say.
I'm glad you saw the answer when you looked at me.
Yeah, as far as education of procurement, I'll give a shout out to Weikert. They were one of the participants. They offered to do a training session for procurement so they can understand exactly how mobility RFPs work. And it was very helpful for my procurement representative to better understand, where it's coming from and the difficulties when it comes to mobility, because it's not widgets, that we're pricing and costing out. So those opportunities are out there. I'm sure Weikert's not the only ones to do that. But it was a very non-selling, friendly, helpful session that they offered, and I thank them.
Is that a common problem with the RFPs, that the procurement doesn't understand how to do them or how to structure them?
Yeah, I think, years ago, I was suggesting that they should come out with some kind of a booklet or training for procurement, mobility for procurement. Because it's really our responsibility, everyone says, procurement's the one that's at fault and everything else. But it's our responsibility to make them understand they're not out there to make our lives, tougher. Okay, so we shouldn't blame them. It's just us educating them on how mobility works, and they will partner with you. Any good company's procurement department will work with you on doing what's right, because your day-to-day is what's the most important. So.
Well, and many corporate cultures have a policy of implementing the lowest cost possible, being as efficient as you can with cost, and they don't understand that mobility is a service. And a lot of times, the lowest cost provider is not the best solution. And so often you need to speak to your procurement team. And I've been successful in the past, just having a quick conversation with them. Listen, you get what you pay for. We're not talking about cardboard boxes here. We're not talking about widgets. We're talking about employee experience. We want to make sure that we are getting the best possible service for our money. And usually they back down. I don't usually get a whole lot of pushback, but they do need that consideration.
And I think the other thing, that it's not just the price of certain things. Look at it holistically. What can you do differently that can save money? Because at the end of the day, procurement wants to save money. So if you can show them in other ways besides the price of how much a file costs,
Yes.
they're fine with that. It's just educating them, giving them other options besides trying to get the lowest price.
And I think that's part of the investment as global mobility colleagues are, right? Is that investment to partner with folks within your internal team who really are part of your team, like what Jack said around procurement, finance as well, right? Because finance will be looking at numbers and it's like, wow, $1 million? And I was like, yeah, but there's a reason why that's $1 million. So there is a lot of value in investing education. And it goes two-way as well for us as an industry, for us to understand their language. So when you actually speak with procurement or finance, you're kind of like along the same lines of, right, what are you trying to achieve and what are we trying to achieve here? Because I think having it as a one-way conversation, sometimes you go into a debate and you're not even on apple-to-apple debates.
Knowing that most of the time procurement sits under finance, not always, I've had success, if you have the data, and it goes back to data quality, to quantify the cost of the program and then put those service provider fees as a percentage. And in my case, at my previous employer, those service provider fees were less than 2%. So when you paint that picture, procurement backs off. Like, we're managing a $30 million mobility budget, and you're arguing over less than 2%. Like, get off my back.
In a nice way.
In a nice way.
But I think just adding to what you said, so education and understanding too that cost for the relocation services, it's also like managed by design of the policies. So it's not only that
Right.
external vendor, and services are going to be similar. Costs and fees are similar too. You may save on some with one vendor, but then you pay on other services differently. And I think the biggest impact is really that policy design or benefits design, which then comes with the culture and what do you want to create, and the value proposition to employees and to the company. And just, if I may add a little bit to the value, we don't do education sessions with internally or with the vendors, but what I think it's very helpful, it's the business reviews. And I don't know how many of your providers are kind of initiating those. I know through the pandemic, we kind of like stop and stay away from that face-to-face interactions. But there are, to be more creative, you can do Zooms and stuff. I find it very beneficial to my internal colleagues, so procurement, other total rewards leaders, just to have a quick, an hour or 2 hours, check whether that's going to be annual or bi-annual meet, and just kind of do the review. Put the face to that service provider or service partner, as well.
Every review, because there's a lot of pass-through costs with RMC, and they go through costs, highlight the proportion of ratio of service provider fees versus pass-through costs, because that's what will get finance to back down.
That's a really great point you put there to like make it a ratio almost, right? And managed it to a number or to a ratio, and I would be really curious to hear like what that ratio is for folks, you know, what's the benchmark or the standard?
You know what's a big cost that they're really surprised of is tax gross up.
Exactly.
Okay?
That's the
And
number one,
that's
and
a
housing.
Big cost, that and household goods, but.
No,
yeah.
housing.
Oh, housing. Well,
Tax
not
and housing.
us. We have.
Pitchforks. We actually have a question though, too. Can we
Yeah,
take a question real quick? So, Phil Leonard, I don't know if you can hear me, I'm gonna speak up.
Hi,
Phil
Phil.
Leonard says, how are you understanding pricing capabilities when using a RMC and their temp living network? How are you understanding pricing / capabilities when using an RMC and their temp living network?
We don't.
We don't. We go direct for our temp housing. So I just,
Why did you make that decision?
price and just having that partnership so that if something goes wrong, if I need something, I can just call them directly. And I have that friendship with our partners to do that. So yeah, I don't go through our RMC for temp housing. I've established my own relationships.
I think, Phil, in answer to your question, I think most of it is trusting the RMC that they're doing the right thing for you. Whether you believe it or you don't believe it, but people that use temp housing, they don't look at every single, point of how you came up with the price or whatever. A lot of it is trust to the RMC that they're doing the right thing for you.
And I think to answer Phil's questions, I'll say twofold, right? So it's actually a combination of Kristin's and Jack's, where you have, so for example, in our company, right, we have direct relationships that is driven by our travel and desk team, right? So you tap on that because that's your rates are probably going to be the best that you could find in a sense. At the same time, where you don't have those partnerships, depending on where you operate in the globe, that's where you kind of like work with your RMC. I'm just going to put a caveat to that though, because temp living can be a lot because it's tied to so many things. But to directly answer that question, at least from my own point of view and my own personal opinion, I also would need to look into how independent is it, right? Because that's a cost that can easily blow up. And it depends on how much your volume is really around that. So our volume relies on it quite a lot because it is a major relocation benefit. And so you would kind of like need to monitor that, and you'd need to look into, right, how inflated is inflated? Like because that's usually a question that you get from relocatees. I'd go to Google, and I use the same temp living, for example. My rate's $100 lower than what you're saying, so why can't I just like book direct? Obviously, there's a lot of reasons why you do that because you need to record it and report it and everything, but that's also kind of like a factor that comes into how we look at temp living commercial pricing.
And I think that goes not just with temp living, it's everything. It's household goods, it's, and so it gets back to my trust thing. You hope that your RMC is doing what they're supposed to be doing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be with them.
Yeah, and one of the things I'll just bring up is I know with temp living, the cost is always a point of contention for senior leadership when they see the figures, but they don't understand the mechanics of what goes into temp living. That provider is taking on the risk of a long-term lease. They're renting the furniture, the rent, the internet, the Wi-Fi. It's all of that, the appliances. And they're just thinking, in their head probably an empty space. Like, I wouldn't pay that for an apartment. Why are we, paying thousands of dollars for this rental? So it's really helpful to educate them when you have the opportunity on everything that goes into that, because it's so much more than just, just a rental. It's the whole management of it.
And sorry, just to add, because there's also
interdependencies with temp living. So you don't look at temp living as, oh, I just need temp living. It's, you need to place a roof above your employee's head, essentially. And it has a lot of dependencies on where is shipment. So, and that's what we're saying, like global mobility isn't just about, oh, temp living, we just need temp living for the sake of. It's, there's a lot of interdependency that goes behind that need. And particularly for, you know, when your traffic lane is like 24 hours apart from flight, like, you know, Asia to the Americas, or significantly different cultures come into play, where you kind of like need to make sure that they at least know the lay of the land. And so usually temp living goes just beyond a roof above their head, but it actually helps them settle down as well. So, and because the mic's with me, driving on, this is where you kind of like drive it. A point that I think we took from Amy's and Jack's point earlier around, you know, you share the ratio, right? You have a command in terms of what your data looks like. How do you feel about your data, actually? And should we be looking at a lot of these global mobility data quite differently now? We used to have our generic, how many people are you moving, where are they coming from? But in this day and age, how are we thinking differently in terms of what are some of these data that we might just want to start looking into as we innovate the industry?
So I'll throw out the word AI to that conversation. I've seen some very interesting prototypes or current products that are available that RMCs are using, where the AI analyzes the data for you, and you tell it what you're looking for, and it gives it to you. Now, obviously, it's fairly brand new, and there probably needs to be a lot of development in that area. But I think AI is going to be, reporting is going to be one of those areas that AI is really going to be helpful in. I say that, but I know we've thrown around the words experience and people and stuff like that. And I have alternative fears. We'll probably talk about AI a little bit more in a little bit, but about AI, you know, replacing some things within our space, which we could talk about that more later. But
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, what you're talking about AI, but what's important is the information has to be somewhere, okay? And if we're looking at costs from RMCs, are you getting all the expenses that you're paying through tax, through all these other organizations? And we've done that with our, we have all, even if it's not paid by our RMC, we still have files of the expenses that come to the RMC, so they at least have all the expenses now. So when we ask for expenses, they have them all. So AI is only as good as if you have the information.
Oh, sure.
You know, even we talk about auditing invoices. Well, that's fine, but you have to have it in the system somewhere to compare one to the other. And I think that's where we're kind of behind the 8 ball on that. We don't have all the data in one place for a lot of things to be able to use AI.
I've always thought that the comp aggregator, so whatever is feeding the tax return, will have all the data. Because I think one of the most overlooked things is shadow payroll taxes. And you know, that's got to get into the tax return. So I look at what is feeding the tax return, and that's where I seek the full picture of data. And on to AI, I think another point is, I would say we don't always know what we're looking for, and AI can even help us through that. Like, look at this data. What do you see that maybe I want to explore further? So I use AI when I don't know what I'm looking for. It's just, you know, throw a fishing line into a lake and see what I get.
What have you found so far? Have you done, like, what has AI gone back, I guess, in terms of something you didn't see?
Oh, you put me on the spot, Joan.
Sorry.
I can always pivot if you want.
We'll get back to you.
Come back to me on that.
We'll give you time to think. But I think that's kind of like a good point around garbage in, garbage out. right? So, Gosia, you wanna?
Yes, like just adding to like data, obviously, so systems are very important, but I always say like system is as good as its design, and then it's also too who is administrating. So if you're not going to be consistent on how you're putting the data in, you're not going to benefit fully to, to the extent you can. So that's kind of my, when we like looking and comparing different systems, especially from like the HR perspective, this is what I always say, like it's just as good as you have the implement it with the intention that you're not really being cheap with the implementation. And then also to another thing is like, it's not only AI, I think, too, for the future, but I think it's more compliance, I would look at this. And just like with upcoming EU transparency, pay transparency, or any other restrictions, yes, that especially European countries put. So if you have a global mobility or global programs, benefits, this is what you need to pay attention. So it's not only like nice to have, but sooner, I think, than later, government is going to be more, I think, requiring you to have this information, also across the states.
I was just going to say that we can easily get a cost estimate on an assignment, but now we're trying to get actual costs, and that's where, can we design something as easy as doing a cost estimate? Maybe in the future, but just my thought.
And I think there's always that point of building, and I gotta share this in one of the panels I was in. It's making sure we also build solid foundations of what that data looks like, right? Because like to Amy's point, shadow payroll, that's part of your entire comp accumulation in a sense, right? So, but that's also kind of like throwing it out there to all of our partner suppliers, which I've kind of like shared in the past, is how can we get to that place of having one system that captures everything, and to Judy's point, to say, right, now we can really track estimates and actuals, right? So because you have your immigration costs, you have your, if you're doing international healthcare, that's also something that is reportable. You have your RMCs, you have your own tax fees, right? So there's a lot that comes into play to actually show this is comp accumulation. For this individual, for this year, that feeds into that tax return, I am confident these are all of the costs that have gone in there. And you may have a number, how did you get to that number? So we're kind of like scrambling from different, scram is probably a tough word, but we're getting it from very different sources, and sometimes it's a lot for you to get to the output that you want.
Do you have a feeling that RMCs are out there looking at this going, we can do that, we can do that? So what is the disconnect between, we know providers have the capability, but I wonder of us how many of us truly take advantage of it? How can we close that gap?
I think they have it to a level, and as long as we have different systems that everyone is using, it's almost impossible. They can bring it to a certain level, but when you start getting into payroll and things of that nature, tying that into it, I think you can get close, but I don't think it'll ever be perfect.
Yeah, and risk and compliance internally are going to be your biggest roadblock. As soon as they hear AI, red flags go off and they want to qualify everything, and yes, data privacy concerns and all of that. So yeah, it's very exciting, and it's kind of deflating. You learn about these new products. Wow, that would be great, and then you share it with risk, and they're like, oh, hold on there.
I feel like we can move smarter across the entire ecosystem. I call it the global mobility ecosystem because it truly is it takes a whole village to actually make relocation work. And I think that's the point of how can we start working smarter? To Jack's point, we can maybe get there to a level. Let's start pushing the boundaries. Like, how far can that? How far or how high can we raise the bar in terms of, right, let's get everything. Let's even try to attempt opening dialogue to what's out there from a system perspective.
I think the other thing that RMCC, along with what you're talking about, is do we really need this? It sounds great and everything else. What are we gonna do with it? That's always the key, is like, we talk about wanting different things, but what are we gonna do with it if we have it? You know, is it gonna change how we do our business? And hopefully, yes, but a lot of our wish list sometimes is like, all right, if we do get that, but are we gonna use it in any fashion that's gonna increase our employee experience or our, or our business or our model? And I think that's what a lot of the RMCs are careful about, putting money into places that they're not sure the value is there for all of their customers, not just you and, big companies, so.
That's a good point.
We have a question, if I may. Daisy Sinclair wants to know, do
Daisy.
your current internal systems provide your RMCs with the data they need in a timely and effective manner? Is it your fault?
It's a fair question.
Well, we provide the information that we have to them, but then it's the
How does
RMC.
that work, like systematically, like logistically?
Well, we have a system that feeds into our RMC system that's enough to initiate the process. It's then up to the RMC, since we outsource, they're the ones that have to manage the rest of that process and the data. That we give them the data they need to start the process. But after that, it's up to them to manage whoever they're managing.
How does that work for everyone? Is everybody the same? I mean, they're different.
You talking like comp data, like payroll data?
Yeah, what data?
Yeah, what data are we talking about, Daisy?
Well, what data do you push? I mean, tell us how you do it. Like, what do you do?
Well, I would say payroll data would probably be the one after initiation, API initiations, HR updates, payroll, like payroll exports and import that into the challenge, I think, especially when it comes to international, is like, I go back to the shadow payroll. That's where it gets tricky.
But our data is manually transferred with
same here.
reports. We don't have any type of integration with systems. Does anybody have any type of compensation
No,
integration?
Ours is manual when it comes
It's
to taxes.
You
Yeah,
like
it's ours
download
too.
a file and then upload
And
it on.
then our payroll team.
Yeah.
takes
But
it.
that's okay.
That's
It's
okay,
still-
right,
It's
it's-
still transferring the data.
Right.
It doesn't matter how,
API, yeah,
Yeah,
true.
so they do get data from us.
We're doing it a little bit differently. It's the same purpose, which is you give the data, but we don't do it through our RMC. We actually do it through our tax provider. By design, so that is part of the what we call a total comp accumulation process. So all of your other partner suppliers feed into your tax provider, including payroll, actually. So, so there's that check and balance. And so at the end of the day, because in a sense, they're kind of like part of the tail end of it because they need to do their tax returns anyway. So by design, same purpose, just different house and, well, different resources. But
It's a good point too, because not every expense is gonna come through payroll or the RMC. So, health insurance premiums, that doesn't go through either one of those. So there's an example that has to be collected. A lot of the immigration expenses that aren't managed by the RMC, those come in. So they're still, kind of back to your point, as ecosystem is really identifying what's that ecosystem of expenses and getting it all to that central spot.
We've got a couple questions here, if I may.
go for
I
it.
don't want to mess up the flow, but, you know what? We have a question for Hunter.
No.
I just thought he was gonna give away scot-free. Escape for the free coffee.
I gave
He's
you a
like, yeah.
disclaimer. I give you a disclaimer.
On the spot, all right.
Christopher Barnett says, I'd love to get the intern's take on AI. Is he leveraging it to get ahead, or is he worried about how it might shape the job market for his generation? No pressure.
No, that is a good question. So I'll start with the second part. I think I definitely am kind of worried about it in the job market in the future. I think it can definitely be used as a good tool, but it's just how companies decide to use it. I think that's the big question now, and I feel like just, reading the news and everything, I think companies are starting to realize that it, may not 100% replace, everyone here. Which I think is a good thing, and I think it gives me hope. And then in my work, I think I definitely use it as a tool. I think it could definitely be used to, like even at school, I'll use it to, brainstorm ideas. I think it still doesn't replace the human aspect. Like it doesn't replace me, I still have my own ideas, and I think it just really depends on how you use it. I think it's good for you, like looking over data or like a lot of things that has a lot of information in it that, the human eye might miss. So I think it's, overall, it just depends on how you use it and how to use it properly.
Can I follow up with a question for you on this? Because, you're talking about it as the way we're talking about it, but in colleges now, is that being looked at as more career? Are things changing on how you're dealing with AI? Are you looking at careers in design? Because I work for a medical devices company, and we're using AI, for surgical equipment and that type of thing. So are there careers looking at that rather than just looking at it as collecting data and things of that nature? Are career tracks changing? A lot of times what they say is people that are in college now, their jobs are not even invented yet. Okay, you come out of school and these jobs aren't even there yet. Do you see that as school now, as more learning and development and things of that?
Yeah, I think we have, at Temple, we have like management information systems, like they've just overhauled that to like kind of work directly with AI. So I think it's more unique now in how people are being like, oh, here's how we can use this to invent new things, and like what you said, using it in like different medical systems and everything. So I think it's kind of pushing people, instead of using it to replace the work, using it to build new ideas and really develop what we have already.
Yeah, because I know there was something about college at the graduation where they all booed when they heard AI, and it kind of surprised me as, instead of looking at it as taking away jobs, look at it as how we're changing, in the future, and look at it as opportunities. So I was a little taken back by that.
I think, I think with the bigger companies, like some people are trying to use it to replace everything. Like I know on Google now, everything's like directly with Gemini, and I find it difficult to work with it once in a while. So I understand where they're coming from, but I think you can also use it as a tool to help.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know that we did not talk about, or we are going to talk about AI, but I love it for like even vacation planning. It's so much easier.
Yeah, let's pivot to that.
She takes vacations?
Oh, Jack, stop. I'm in the shore house, Jack.
What about wealth?
We have another question, actually, if I may. People are really enjoying this conversation. Get in the comments, y'all, if you got questions. I'll try to interject them without mess up the flow. Ben Heller says, what's the tipping point where clients feel the need or justification to have a direct relationship with the supplier outside of the RMC? Is it by category, by spend, by noise level, by people you like, or something entirely different?
I think it's combination, yes.
I think, it's a combo of everything. I think, at least personally speaking, for me, it's time too. Like, I need things turned over like right away. So it's just a matter of like, when you have those direct relationships, you can get it done faster. And then of course, pricing, having those direct relationships. So I feel like it's a combination, but we do partner with our RMC throughout all of this. So it's not like I'm taking that relationship directly and running with it. Like we are partnering together with our RMC.
That's so interesting though, and almost kind of counterintuitive. Sorry, I'm speaking loudly, sorry, but like, I'm not yelling at you. But because some people think it's time consuming to have those relationships, but you find it actually less time consuming.
It probably is. But that's just.
Well, that's you personally.
That's
you
me
get,
personally.
Yeah.
I'm very. We're I'm just one person in my program. But we're hands-on, right? We don't want to take that human interaction away from the process. But, I mean, it's just, I've sort of created my own beast in
Yeah.
that, you know.
Yeah, I don't know why you would not have a preferred relationship wherever you can, if your program's large enough.
Yeah.
Obviously, if your program is small, it's hard to do that. But why you would not have a preferred relationship is beyond understanding, because they learn your culture. If you only use, our household goods, we have direct relationships with a couple. They learn your culture. They know how you think. So I don't understand why large programs would not do
I
a
can't imagine
preferred.
not picking up the phone
Yeah.
and calling my household goods partner or
To
my
take care
temp
of
housing partner to
Right.
help me out or take care of
Yeah.
something.
Devil's
So-
advocate, in some locations, I'm the opposite.
Right, I mean,
Because
yes, if I have an assignment, like, I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
who the person is in London or
Yeah.
something, but when it comes to
US,
US, I can't imagine not having those
You're
direct
right.
relationships.
International, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we trust.
Yes, yeah, I use RMC everything for international, but,
Oh.
Jason, do you want to say something?
No.
Ben's asking me to raise my hand.
I'm trying to get him to raise his hand.
Oh.
I got these AI damn cameras, and they're focused.
I
Okay.
felt bad, like we're cutting
Stop.
Jason off or something. Go ahead, Jason, what do you want to say?
Jason's been so patient with us.
Teams.
I got these AI cameras.
So unlike me, I would just,
Jack, put your hand in the check. Put your hand down.
always causing trouble.
Put your hand
You know,
Right on the spot.
so what it does is the hand signals to the AI camera that focuses
Tough to hand.
on you.
Oh.
So put your hands down.
Oh.
I don't want to be funny right now. Guys. Put your hands down.
YMCA right here.
Oh, it's about the joint.
Jack, put your hand up.
We are live.
All right, hold it there. Don't move. And. All right, we're good. Thanks. Continue. Stress.
so I'll just add real quick, like, I don't have a direct relationship, maybe as direct as Kristin does, but I do like the preferred provider relationship that I have with my RMC in requesting preferred providers. And again, I think Jack had said it a few minutes ago, is culture. M&T is very big on small businesses and entrepreneurs. So I'm very excited when I meet a small business within the mobility space to see how they operate and if they're a good fit to funnel business through them. So that's the way I work with most of my preferred providers.
I think direct and preferred, we're using it kind of the same.
Yeah.
I think we're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
When you say that. And the other thing is, even if you use, the contract of the RMCs for your household good, you can still use a preferred.
Oh, right,
contract,
exactly.
Because it's really like, oh, I raised my hand, sorry.
No, you're fine. Gus is over here messing with me over here. She's sneaky handed over here.
Well, she was gonna say
Hand down.
something, right? She was gonna say
Go ahead.
something.
Yes. Just want to add that, I think the nature of the business, of global mobility business, is that relationship. This is what we're all saying. So I don't know anyone from at least our network that don't have direct relationship or personal relationship. I'm still, in touch with my prior RMC. So I think that's nature of the business. And what, and the service itself that we're providing to our employees, that we are in those preferred direct relationships.
Now, when you say direct relationships, sorry, they're moving house so good. Are we talking about contracts, direct contracts, or are we talking about, I want to use them, RMC, go do that?
So it's exactly mixed. Depending on the situation, too, you need to be flexible. This is exactly what you said, So we do have the RMC. I think the original question was like, why wouldn't you have? So like Kristin having RMC, but also having direct relationship with the provider. So it's a little bit mixed, I think. Yeah, like the main goal, I think, on the program too, for the RMC is being a partner, taking that administrative side of our function, so we can focus on something else. So like, I can't imagine to run the business differently, but it's also the situations and again, nature of the business, and we are in the service providing space that those personal relationships are just natural.
Right. And I was going to say, it's events like this where we can get together with all of our suppliers and build new relationships that we can form here in the relocation councils, which I have done in the past.
I think two key points, right? Two key takeaways is, Jack's right, like, why would you not, right? So what's stopping you from not actually going through either a direct or a preferred supplier? But a common theme that I'm not sure if everyone has noticed is the currency, one of the currencies in the program is trust, right? So you earn it, right? And once you've earned it, it's almost like wherever you go, right? I know you can deliver this particular space and this particular service because that currency has been earned. And that's really a trust. And like what I said, it's an ecosystem. So if we get to a point where the output is a gold standard, why would you not actually go for direct or preferred?
I would say if you've ever gone through the procurement and contracting process at a corporation, that is one reason to not go. Now, not barring so I get the differentiation between direct and preferred, but I think the contract management and the expectations around supplier governance, partner governance is so strong in some corporates that it's almost like we have to put our faith in our RMC because it will never happen within the corporate. The contract management side and procurement and legal are just too onerous.
Yeah, I think what happened is, years ago, we went with the direct contracts. People were trying to save money, and they thought if they go with direct contracts, we're saving money. I think we've gotten away from that and allowing the RMC, the complexity of their contracts with Atlas and United or whatever, use their contracts, but for employee experience, and the best is to then, use the preferred. But yeah, years ago, I think it was more of a cost savings. Let's go around the RMC and we'll get better prices. But today it's more around, I think, the experience and use their contracts that they've negotiated for.
And I think, too, like my experience, at least being like in the industry about 15 years or so, it seems like RMCs also are becoming a little bit more flexible with adding the preferred partners, yes, directed by the corporations, which I think it's helpful too. It kind of open up a little bit the space for the collaboration between. But, I know like 10 years ago or so, and still depending on the RMC, that was not, I think, that common. Right. Yes, then so flexibility, I think it's helpful.
Great. Can I have another comment here? Can I read a comment? Sure. Sorry, I promised Joan I wouldn't take it over and I'd let you all know.
You're good.
But Janet Olkowski. Janet.
Yeah, don't wave, Jack. Keep your hands.
Janet, please, no hands, people. I'm getting the Philly hand talk over here. Janet says, I was at a regional meeting recently where they talked about those getting a lump sum going back to the well for more money, but going directly to the HR manager versus mobility. The hiring manager then pays a retention bonus to help alleviate the cost of the employee. Are any of you experiencing that, if you know? And then how is that being captured in total cost? Just another example of not getting the full picture. Does that ever happen?
All the time.
Those rascally transfers?
Yeah.
And I would say, if you want to give them more money, you don't do it through relocation because we gross up our money. So it actually adds to the cost. So we're like, if you want to do it through sign-on bonus and make the employee pay costs, and it comes out of a comp budget, and it doesn't dilute our policy.
Exactly. I mean, from my perspective, the majority of our mobility cases are new hires. So where that conversation comes up is they see what the potential cost is for mobility, and they're like, well, can't we just pay them a stipend or a sign-on bonus? Because my first reaction is mobility is not compensation. It's a service to support them in their transition. So yeah, you have to shoot down that discussion fairly quickly.
Yeah, and I think it's HR's responsibility to, for the most part, when we give a lump sum, it's not intended to cover the whole relocation. It's just not, and they shouldn't try to sell it as that, because that kind of bargaining should happen before it gets to us. That's part of the process. But we're the same. We would say, you know what, give them a sign-on bonus, or give them the full package if that's what you want to do. But, you know, it's mostly HR has to be responsible and say, this lump sum is not intended to cover your whole location.
And go ahead, Gosia.
And Kristin said it's back to experience, but I also too think that it's back to the communication. So it's not only with the external partners, but then with HR, because I heard that Janet mentioned HR manager and global mobility. Sometimes it's the same, so all depends, or talent acquisition. So I think that's back to the communication, collaborating together because we do create that experience for employees up front.
I'll also add one thing. So I said what I said, but I'm going to say something else, which is I've always told talent acquisition that I never want relocation to be the reason they lose a candidate. So it is a fine line of, you know, let's not abuse the relocation policy, but let's help you get that candidate. So in the spirit of partnership. Right?
I did see you roll your eyes above there. So
You didn't see it. I'm sure the cameras didn't pick that up.
but that's also part of when you actually do these offers, and I'm glad we have our partners here, compensation partners here as well, is one, internally you're clear that when you actually speak with your total reward team or your compensation team, it's not lump sum in lieu of relocation or sign-on bonus in lieu of relocation. That just doesn't work, right? So to everyone out there, it really doesn't work. So, but like to what Amy said, how can we be creative enough to actually get this person on board? And sometimes that is a conversation that as global mobility, you need to speak with your total reward partners and your talent acquisition partners on what is it really that we're trying to solve? Like, because many people are just like, oh, throw in the money. I'm like, will it really solve what they want, right? So it's not a black and white answer, but there are lines where you're like, it's an interdependent where you don't use relocation because you can't give a sign-on bonus. The same way that you don't do a sign-on bonus in lieu of relocation because everything just like, it disrupts both parties, and so it just makes sense to actually have both parties go into a table and what are we trying to address? And that's a close partnership that you need to play with your reward partners, your talent acquisition partners to get somebody on board. Are there any more questions, Ben?
There's a couple.
Go ahead.
Really, y'all enjoy this, giving the audience a lot of love here. Get in the comments, y'all, hit that like button. We got some folks asking some questions. Christina says, what's up, Christina? What happens when your RMC uses a non-preferred partner? Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly.
Did they ask us first? That's
I love
Did they-
hypotheticals.
Did they run it past us?
Right.
I think that's the big, yeah. Oh, sorry. Did they run it past us first, I think is the biggest question. If so, then great. There has to be a reason why they didn't use our preferred or direct partners, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't ask. I mean, you still have this trust that the RMC's supply chain management are looking after their vetted suppliers and make sure that they're using alternatives when necessary that still meet the satisfaction criteria. So I wouldn't have a problem with that. I wouldn't even expect them to let me know that they're not using a preferred provider. I would just trust that, you know, they know what they're doing, and for some reason they couldn't in that instance.
Well, some of them, I mean, okay, some of them have, you know, own parts of their supply chain, right? And so is there a conflict there?
Well, my RMC doesn't work like that, so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
But I do know others that do, so
Yeah.
go ahead, Amy.
I don't want to call anybody out.
They want us to stay.
I won't be specific on who it was, but I've had experience with one RMC that did have their own mortgage vertical within it. And they were not part of our preferred actually, we did have a direct relationship at that time. They weren't part of our preferred, but they were presented as an alternatives for the transferees. And it got us into trouble because they were not the strongest in that segment. And I'll just say it nicely. They were not the strongest in that segment. And, I kind of went with a 3-strike system. And after 3 incidents of dissatisfaction, I said, I can't allow you to use that anymore. So I think 3 was generous in that case. But, unfortunately, I've seen that happen. Not going to call out the name. Don't ask.
We're laughing.
Sorry, we were laughing because for anyone who's probably been in the industry for quite a while, that's a if you know moment.
Yes.
Right? So if you know moment. Yeah. Okay, come on, Ben, we're live.
Okay, got another question here. How often do you audit household goods costs with your RMCs or temp living costs, et cetera? Specifically, household goods is one of the things mentioned here. How often do you audit those things? And how do you audit those things?
We have an outside company that audits our invoices to our contract.
So
That
not your RMC, but another company.
an outside company, right? It's not part of the RMC. That we pay a per file fee, and they actually audit it. I don't have to, go into the auditing of it, and they compare it to the contract. And even policy, did something come out of policy or something like that? So that's the way we do it.
Anybody else have any experience with that? And do you find that paying that cost actually saves you money?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not that much of a cost. It does. It just keeps everybody honest. It just, it's very simple. They do the invoicing for us, so absolutely. That's not one of my core competencies.
No.
Auditing invoices.
Business reviews as well, when they actually go through business reviews, if you do hold them, where they would give you the big picture, break it down, or actually even ask them like, what do you wanna see, depending on how you framed your contract. So that's also another way of finding out how you are doing. Everyone's looking at you, Ben, for more questions and comments.
Not a question.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
We have one more get in the comments, y'all, with questions. We are taking them. Sarah Simonetti says, Sarah Marissa Simonetti says, is the manual aspect, this is about the data transfer, right now, download, upload, right? Is the manual aspect a privacy concern? Judy's shaking her head.
No one's touching this.
Well, I can say from, working with a German company, yes, that is an issue. So data privacy is, we've always tried to say, can we feed this into payroll? No. So it's a culture thing.
Interesting. Does anyone else have the courage to talk about data privacy? No. Jack's quiet. Wow, we found a hot button that Jack won't touch.
A nice way to close out the question is actually really, it is framed as well in your contracts, right? In your master services agreement, because your data privacy team would have either, they already have a template of what is and isn't allowed, or if it gets changed or redlined, for sure they're gonna be part of the team that gets to review. So you're kind of like bounded by your MSA and SOW.
Thank you for
That saves everyone to
To close out the questions.
I know, that's why you said you were tired.
Mic drop.
Drop the mics, please. Continue with your topics, Joe.
I mean, we started off with AI, and at the end of it, we're probably gonna, technology is gonna be a big thing. But it's like what I said. I kind of like share. It's like sometimes when you're in a hall and there's the flashiest and fanciest tool, I usually stay away from it. But that's just me. I'm kind of like always kind of like having is AI good? Yes, but I think that's kind of like a point of view of what's your mindset towards it, right? Because it can be misconstrued in so many different ways of, hey, I may be losing my job around it, but I would always hold that thought of it's a tool. Tools are meant to support you, right? So you drive how the tool will support you. And if you get into that conversation of, oh, it's going to replace my job, maybe that's a capability issue as well that we need to start looking within the industry. It's, we have to keep on innovating. It is my point around it. AI is going to be there whether we like it or not. Technology is going to be there whether we like it or not. And so I guess down to like a few minutes, how does everyone feel about technology? How are you, if you have teams, or if you're a one-man, one-woman show, how are you kind of like thinking about technology and AI within our global mobility industry? So quick round the table. Not table. Mark.
I'll just answer. I think anyone who has school-age children still probably feels this way. I mean, it's not going anywhere, and it's kind of like either you get on the bus or you get run over by the bus. So yeah, I think we need to embrace it, but embrace it with our eyes wide open, in that we don't, as Joan kind of said, we don't get jaded by the glittery, shiny objects, and just really make sure that we're using it as a tool and not a full replacement for human touch points.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. We still need the human intelligence behind AI. It's a tool. It's helpful. To Amy's point earlier, it tells you what you don't know. It can give you some feedback on, I've seen policies, for example. Feed it into AI. Where can we make some improvements? But you still need the human intelligence and experience behind it in order to believe in it and deliver it.
And it's, again, just being intentional about it. So, similarly working in a biotech company, you see the value of how it's being used, right? So that in itself is, I guess, an inspiration in terms of, right, there's really some good that comes out of that, right? And it's being intentional of how do you want to use it, and being not kind of like all over the place or jumping onto the bandwagon because everyone's talking about AI kind of thing. It's, well, what is it that you want to do? Be intentional, I guess, when you use it. But like what everyone, I think here's everyone's nodding, we just got to embrace it because it's there. It's not going to go away, so.
Yeah, I see AI definitely, as we spoke about earlier, it's just going to be opportunities, for the future. It's just going to continue to grow and get better. Specifically to our industry, I think it's going to be slow. I think it's going to be very slow to showing, big improvements. And, you mentioned about we always have the human touch. And not that I'm disagreeing with what you're saying, but it is interesting how so many companies now have their call centers. We used to think HR, you used to be able to call somebody in HR and you knew that person and that would never go away. You needed that person. But you know what? They outsource HR now. There's call centers. And because people, they do studies and they say people are not going to leave the company because I'm not speaking directly to an HR person. So I think things are going to change. I agree with you that, yes, it's important to have that manual piece, but look at all the companies that are doing lump sums, They're still good companies and they're still making money, and so they've made decisions like that. So I think AI is going to be slower in our industry, but definitely as a world, it's going to take off like crazy.
And we don't know where it's going to end, right? It's just the beginning of AI right now. So we don't know what capabilities that AI will bring to our industry or any industry out there. But now that I have a lot of time on my hands, I'll be, doing some research on AI.
I think we are at the beginning of a very broad spectrum, and I've seen this somewhere, and I can't remember what firm published this, but it was, we're on a spectrum from things being AI assisted, and on the other end of the spectrum is AI powered. And I think we're at the very beginning of that, where we're using it to assist us, but we're going to evolve over time into where things are AI powered. And, and I think, like you said, this is a journey we just have to be open to, embrace training, get as much training. These roundtables where we talk about use cases and scenarios and different prompts is so valuable. I learn something every time I have these discussions. So, I think it's going to be an evolution from being assisted by AI to things will be driven and powered.
I think I'll just keep it pretty simple. I think being responsible with it, and just really knowing, you have an intention behind what you're using it for. I think that's just crucial, rather than using it to replace everything. I think I said this earlier, rather than using it to replace, use it to assist and, like you say, power.
I'm really huge fan of it. So first, trust, but verify as well. So in using the, and the platform for the information gathering, I think you still need to use your critical thinking. I did find some errors, and then AI being very polite about apologizing for it. So it's nice partnership with. They do. I have a very good relationship with my ChatGPT. Awesome for communication. Awesome for just exactly bringing a large data, amount of data that really just summarize, going through maybe boring F4 filings or stuff like this. It's just really, can you please summarize this for me? Yeah? So that's very helpful. And I think specific to the industry, and I think Ben and Daisy, this is something for you maybe for next sessions, is for years we've been hearing from especially movers, that the shortage of drivers and all that stuff. So, and I think Texas too being pretty ahead with driverless cars. So how that AI in really that technology advancement and being advanced is shaping that industry and addressing the shortage, so helping out. Well, but then it's the concern too from the compliance, and it's really because there is not framework around it. So good thing if they're going to be unleashed too, that you need to be careful with it. But it would be just interesting to see from the RMC perspective, from the corporate communication, getting the data, summary, I love it, and I'm seriously, the vacation planning couldn't be easier. But yeah, from just the industry and then the governance and compliance risk.
Yeah, I would say, so outside of the industry, I'm with you. I love it. I use it all day, every day. It's essentially like my team member, if you will. Down to everything. It helps me rewrite my emails, make it more concise, make it sound more professional, make it sound more friendly, just things just to help me throughout the day. Did you name it? I did not name it. I will name it. But even just helping, time management too, right? Take these 4 emails, summarize them together, just to help you along your day. So it's definitely, I love it in that aspect. It's definitely helped me. And I use it all the time.
Especially too when we're thinking about the corporate functions, being more lenient, this is where the time, I think for me, time savings aspect comes too.
Sorry, am I moving too much?
And the AIs usually have sources of where they gather, and I think this is where that critical thinking compliance part comes in. I love the fact that you have a relationship with it, Gosia. But I did read this as well in one of the I can't remember where I read it, but I read it where he actually built he built a chief of staff from AI that similarly, it just helps him. I think this is more the assisted piece that Amy was talking about, not so much of the powered piece, but it was such a huge help for him. I honestly can't remember who it is, but I read it in one of the articles at LinkedIn. And when he built that chief of staff AI, it saved him a huge chunk when he actually needs to do his job as an HR business partner when he goes into that meeting. So what he says on the meeting is from him, from a strategy perspective, from a how do you direct and move the business perspective, but significantly help with that chief of staff. I'm just putting clues, Gosia, if you want to name your best friend to, or understand.
I mean, we already use Gemini. I think that's a cute name. So
Should we do the context then? But I think into Joan with the reference, so what I find myself, that the reference even my body was putting, they were incorrect. So they were putting like the information, I remember I just like, what is the hardship, I believe, premium I put up, and it's like, according to the Department of State is so, and I'm like, well, based on the website, I see it's something else. So that was where the apology came from. So like, it's still, even with the reference, I think you still need to be critical, but again, it's more helpful and day to day than not.
Are there any more questions or comments from the chat, Ben?
A couple of questions.
I think we can take one or two. Yeah.
One or two. Here's a question from Jillian Guzda. She says, "Hello, Jack." No, she didn't say that. I added to her.
I answered the question already.
No, she says, let me ask everyone here maybe to give me one example. Jillian says, where do you see opportunities to reduce costs without sacrificing employee experience?
Discard and donate, one of the many great benefits, I think, too. So this is where the shipment, managing the cost of shipment, the feel-good things, and then assisting our employees who are so sentimental and holding to their belongings, I think, too. So just like one very common, I think it's like older benefit, yes, but it's still, I don't think it's utilized enough in the industry.
yeah, we made it a standard benefit in our policy now, the discard and donate for all of our moves.
Jason, you want to talk about discard and donate? And limitations and policies and all that?
Yeah, discard and donate. We too made it part of our policy, but without giving too much away. One of the things that we didn't think about was putting parameters around that, like caps. You may want to think about that. I actually had a situation where there was a lot of unauthorized goods at the home. So yeah, you might want to cap that at some point, either monetarily or. How would you cap it? The RMC and I came up with, I think it was a $5,000 cap. Then anything over that had to be reviewed by me and approved as an exception. Because, yeah, we had a very bad situation. It was a runaway train.
Without revealing too much, I think that there are outliers in our industry that I've seen as well, that being hoarders, right? And I don't think we have a good mobility solution for how do we relocate a hoarder.
What we did, we actually had that situation. We put a cap on the weight of the household good move. And, I mean, if it's somebody does go over the weight, it's an exception, and we approve it. But we got caught up in that
And
type of
it's a generous
situation.
weight cap?
Yes.
Yeah, so you don't try to
No,
you try to
it's
hit
like
those outliers.
No, it's like a generous, full
What's that a weight?
25,000.
25,000, that is generous.
That's a generous amount, but it will protect you from a
a
situation
good idea.
like that. We had that. It happened once.
So weight cap of is 25,000 25,000, very generous. I know government is like 18,000, you know, so 25,000, very generous.
Generous.
And then capping the amount of, discardations.
Yeah, discardations.
Truckloads of crap that can fall out of there.
So the cost didn't negate the weight, the cost did not negate the weight savings on the household goods? Did not negate it?
You're asking me?
The cost of discarding?
Yeah, like it was $7,000, but you didn't have a savings on the weight of the household goods?
Well, the problem that I had were these weren't typical household goods and personal
Okay,
effects.
and that's what you can, okay.
Yeah, this was a collection of
Yeah.
items that were not within policy, said very
Well, and the other part
democratically.
about discarding, right, is it's usually by like a trailer load or a truckload or a
dumpster.
load, you know? But that's volume. That's like, when we throw crap in a dumpster and it piles up.
Yeah.
Whereas the household goods are stacked and,
Right.
you know, efficiently, you know, so
Yeah.
it can pile up. Well, thank you, that was a fun one. Melanie, my co-host of the games later, just to give you a little teaser, Melanie says, what does transparency mean to you? A lot of times we throw around cliches like communication or transparency. Like, I don't know what transparent. What does that mean, though? I'm going to ask everybody to go around one word. Let's equivalent that to something. What does transparency mean to you?
Oh, Ben, this is such a good question. We kind of had this conversation last night, and it's along the same lines. We had a brief conversation last night about using the word being your authentic self or authenticity. And I mean, me personally, even though that's promoted in our work culture and in many work cultures, I don't think anyone ever shows up like their true authentic self, like maybe that their spouse sees, you know, behind closed doors, that type of thing. Yeah, so I think transparency is that same type of veil where, yes, you know, it's like a sheer curtain. Yes, it lets sunlight through, but, you know, some things are going to be masked a little bit. So, yeah.
So what would you like it? I'm gonna keep you honest here, though. What does transparency mean to you, or what would you like it to mean?
I mean, it should mean full transparency. You get to see everything black and white, good and bad, ugly and beautiful. So, but I know a lot of people, not only are they afraid to give that information that directly, but some people don't accept information that directly that well.
I think you just said it too. Honesty, I feel like, is a good word for.
I agree with you. I've unfortunately been, and I don't want to say victim, but really I've been way too transparent and it's come back to bite me. And I've been told by management that they would prefer that we are less transparent because they're like, because you go down this path of providing way too much information and the who's and the what's and the, you know, when you're talking about exceptions to policy, well, who approved that or who didn't approve that? You know, who do I need to speak to now? And then you start you have certain transferees who are just extra.
Yeah.
And so the transparency concept comes back and it kind of, it's almost like it's attacking your own program. So what would I like for it to be? I would love to be able to just say, this is everything. Here it is. It's on the wall.
Yeah.
Read it. It's here. There's nothing to hide. But I feel like we do have to hide certain aspects. That's unwritten. So.
Yeah.
I use the same word. I think honesty. I was thinking about truth, but truth kind of like depends on which way you want to go about it. Which truth, right? There's always three: side A, side B, and the actual truth. I would go for honesty. I think on transparency, and I know you could be brutally honest, but I think if that's seen as a disruptor, I'd say continue to be a disruptor.
I would go with the word trust, but I think with transparency, there's there's transparency and there's full transparency. And I think that's, Jason, what you're talking about is, you know, or sometimes you have to not be full transparent. There's just certain situations it doesn't make sense.
the truth.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think that's translucent.
And full translucent.
Well, I would say honesty, because in honesty, you can say what you can, and what you can't say, you can say it. And being honest, I can't share this with you, right? So that's why I use the word honesty.
Knowing who the question came from, I'm going to take it in a different direction.
Oh, I like this.
Because I think maybe she was coming at it from a cost transparency perspective. So I might define it as itemized, might be my one word. Trying to read Melanie's mind.
I like this. Take it in another
Itemized.
direction instead of just saying, I agree, I agree.
Well, I'm not going to go there because I don't think transparency exists in the workplace. Just to play devil's advocate.
Because we're all wearing masks a little
I
bit.
think we all have a mask on. So, okay, that's my word.
All right, I'll go a little bit different from honesty because I was going to say that. I'll go like, I don't know, this makes sense in my head. Organization, like if you're going to be transparent about something, I think it needs to come out in like an organized fashion. I think, you can be honest, but if it's like, doesn't make sense, then it doesn't make sense.
Oh, good point.
Well done.
That's why we bring the kids along,
Fresh
right?
perspective.
So intention, I think it's too. So like transparency, the timing too. So like obviously honesty on the personal level and professional as well. But is it the timing for the honest feedback, for example, is good, or like how it can be received? And I agree with Amy from like the cost perspective, or itemized, and just like knowing where those fees are coming from. Again, understanding everybody is in the business. Most of us working for organizations for profit, non-profit, so that's fine. But so just being honest where that fee structure is coming from. For like, I think earlier point of the temporary housing, sometimes it was so difficult to even get the breakdown, our itemized bill on those temporary housing versus like when I'm in the hotel. I know. Flight, I may not agree that flight is $60 and taxes are 500. Still don't understand, but at least there is an itemized, bill too, so you know what these fee structures look like.
And
Yeah.
how about you, Ben? So to
Let you off the hook.
yeah, to
No, I
close.
love answering this question. Thank you
Go
so
for
much.
it.
Throw me a mic, huh? Yeah, throw it.
Really?
I can catch. Thanks.
So he was not honest with us that they are expensive piece of, equipment. to
Well, if
be
I
careful.
drop it, it's different. If you drop it, I'm mad. If I drop it, I'm like, it's something I would do. As I'm looking at all of you right now, talking about transparency, I appreciate the fact that we all decided to wear clothing today. You're not being transparent, but I trust that this is in my best interest. Okay? I love what I'm seeing, and I think we should leave it there, right?
kind of
And I think
offensive.
sometimes that's what it's like when dealing with a trusted partner. It's like, show me what I need to know, and then, take care of the rest, okay? And I appreciate the fact that we all made that decision today and continue to do so. So that's my take on transparency is faces. Just give me faces. That's my word, faces. I just need faces.
But yeah, so thank you. Ben,
Hey, she got it!
Thank you, Lap. But I think that's a really good thank you, Ben, Daisy, Love Relo, and for everyone who actually showed up today, and for those of you out there who kind of threw questions, would encourage you to join.
I'm so sorry. I have one last question. I know we're wrapping up. I'm told the bar is even set up. But Tamara has one last question. And this is a one-word question. And we're going to go around. And only one word. Knicks or Spurs? Knicks or Spurs?
Knicks.
It's really easy. You've got a 50-50 shot.
Okay, next.
There you go.
I invoke my fifth. No, but I'm rooting for the Knicks versus Spurs.
The Nova Knicks. Nova Knicks.
That's what I was going to say, Jack. Nova Knicks.
We're in Philly. I got to go with the Knicks.
We're in Philly. We got to go with Spurs.
Love love that fearless, but like, you know what, after seeing game yesterday, nix.
Sure, next.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we got a call there.
Thank
right.
you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
And thanks everybody for commenting. Thank you so much for all the questions. So, shall we call it?
Yes.
All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate y'all.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
See you next
All
time.
hands up. All hands up.